Outside the west doors, attendants kneel to spread a train of ivory silk taffeta nearly 25 feet long. Inside, 3,500 people are seated. The bride's walk from the door to the altar takes 3.5 minutes. It's shortly after 11 in the morning. Across the country, the day has been declared a public holiday. Welcome to Same Day, Different Century. I'm Zach. Today is July 29th. They first met in November 1977 at Althorp, the Spencer family estate in Northamptonshire. Charles, Prince of Wales, was 29 and visiting to shoot. He was there in connection with Diana's older sister, Sarah. Diana was 16. Nothing would come of it for 3 years. That came a summer weekend in 1980 at a house party in Sussex. By Diana's own later account, given in the taped answers she supplied for Andrew Morton's 1992 book, she spoke to Charles about the funeral of Lord Mountbatten, his great-uncle and closest mentor, killed by an Irish Republic Army bomb in August 1979. She told him he had looked lonely walking up the aisle. Charles began pursuing her within weeks. That courtship ran inside a set of hard constraints. Under the Royal Marriages Act of 1772, the heir required the sovereign's consent to marry. As future Supreme Governor of the Church of England, Charles could not, in the judgment of his advisers, marry a divorcee or a Catholic, and the press by then expected a bride with no documented romantic history at all. Diana met every specification. She was Protestant, aristocratic, and 19. Diana's uncle, Lord Fermoy, told reporters publicly that his niece had no past, that he could vouch for her purity. The press pursuit was relentless through the autumn of 1980. Diana was working at a kindergarten in Pimlico. Photographers waited outside her flat and followed her car. In early 1981, Charles' father, Prince Philip, wrote to him about the situation. Charles later told his authorized biographer that he read the letter as an ultimatum: propose or release her. Others who have seen the correspondence describe it differently, as sympathetic advice that the ambiguity was unfair to Diana. The letter's tone matters because it bears directly on whether Charles believed he was choosing or complying. The engagement was announced on February 24, 1981. The ring was a sapphire surrounded by diamonds, ordered from the jeweler Gerard. Notably, a piece from the existing catalog rather than a commission. In the televised interview that followed, a reporter asked whether they were in love. Diana said of course. Charles added the qualification that trailed him for the next 40 years. Whatever in love means. Diana moved into royal residences that spring, largely cut off from her old life. By her account, days before the wedding she found a bracelet Charles had commissioned for Camilla Parker Bowles, a married friend he had known since 1970. She told her sisters she wanted to stop, and was told her face was already on the souvenir tea towels. Charles' side has always disputed her reading of that period, but the engagement had become politically and publicly difficult to reverse. The wedding was held at St. Paul's Cathedral rather than Westminster Abbey, where major royal weddings of the 20th century had taken place. The reasons were practical. St. Paul's seated far more people. Its aisle was longer, which meant a longer walk on camera, and the processional route from Buckingham Palace was several times longer, which meant far more of London could line the streets. Roughly 600,000 people filled the route. Diana traveled in the glass coach with her father, the 8th Earl Spencer, who had survived a cerebral hemorrhage 3 years earlier and still had difficulty walking. Film of the procession up the aisle shows her steadying him as much as he escorted her. The dress by the designers David and Elizabeth Emanuel had been built for a cathedral rather than a carriage. Its train did not travel well in the confined coach, and the creasing is visible in the photographs. A small mechanical fact that says something about the whole enterprise. The spectacle had been designed for the wide shot. The ceremony itself produced 2 errors that were broadcast live. Diana transposed Charles's names, accidentally stating Philip Charles Arthur George. Charles muddled a line of his own, pledging her goods rather than his. One departure was deliberate. The word obey had been removed from Diana's vows at her request. Newspapers commented on it for days. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Robert Runcie, gave the address. One line from it became the permanent shorthand for the marriage. that this is the stuff of which fairy tales are made. It is almost always quoted alone, and that quotation reverses its meaning. Runcie's point was that fairy tales end at the wedding, and that this was where the actual work began. On the Buckingham Palace balcony afterward, the couple kissed for the crowd. By most accounts, no royal couple had done that before. Broadcasters put the global television audience at around 750 million. That figure deserves a note. It was a projection assembled from national broadcast estimates, not a measurement, and numbers of that kind were routinely generous. Even discounted, it was among the largest live audiences assembled to that point. Diana became the most photographed woman in the world, and her image reorganized the economics of the British press. A picture of her could move circulation measurably, which meant photographers could justify almost any expenditure to obtain one. The tabloid market of the 1980s and 1990s was built substantially on her. That market did not release her when the marriage failed. The failure became public in stages. Morton's book appeared in 1992, presented as the work of friends. Only after Diana's death was it confirmed that she had supplied the material herself, on tape. The separation was announced in December 1992. In a 1994 television interview, Charles acknowledged adultery, saying it came after the marriage had irretrievably broken down, a timeline Diana rejected. In her own 1995 interview, she offered the sentence that outlived both accounts, that there were 3 of us in this marriage. The divorce concluded in August 1996. Diana was killed in a car crash in Paris on August 31st, 1997, pursued by photographers. One reading holds that this was a private incompatibility magnified by scrutiny. 2 people who barely knew each other joined under conditions that made retreat expensive. Another holds that the failure was structural. An institution that required an heir to select a bride from a shrinking pool defined by chastity, religion, and rank had made a sustainable marriage improbable by design. Subsequent royal weddings generally avoided the scale and spectacle of 1981. Windsor rather than St. Paul's, shorter routes, and guest lists trimmed, with the exception of William and Catherine's 2011 Abbey wedding. Every royal wedding staged since has been designed against the memory of that spectacle, planned for a public that now watches these events knowing how one of the most famous ones ended. That same day, different century. I'm Zach. We'll be back tomorrow with another date, another story. Thanks for listening. Hey guys, it's Zach. If you're enjoying the show, please go to the episode description and there's a link where you can text me directly. It's a one-man show. I promise I'll be the one responding and talking with you. I'd love to hear from you and get to know you. Tell me what you're enjoying about the show, hit me up with some recommendations for future episodes, or anything else you want to talk about. I'll see you tomorrow.